version we did yesterday. We know where Scarlett is.
Either in transit or still getting onto Zoom.
And she has a class for this,
Mm.
so she can even get here late portion of doing it too. She did tell me which.
Okay. I think that'll work.
All right. So let's go ahead, just work through the sprint report first.
Sprint, that never came over email, did it? I didn't. see it.
Yeah, I don't think we emailed that, sorry.
Is it in a drive? I can.
Drive,
It's in
yeah.
the draft,
All right.
so I'd like to meeting notes.
Okay, I see it.
Earlier.
Week 12, right?
Yep.
Okay.
So tell us about the Unity game and Oculus headset.
Yeah, so this Tuesday, Lois and I were in the lab. Scarlett just said she's gonna be that link, by the way. Thank you. But we're in the lab down here in Fennell. And so while we didn't successfully get the map that we really worked with the SDK into Unity, but we were able to get like one of the tutorial games and yeah, just like following guys. So we're able to actually get a game through Unity into the headset. We just didn't get enough time to go back and do it with the part of one. We were having a bit of issues with the camera and stuff.
So you said it was a tutorial game? You mean like something that you made while working through the tutorials or something that's pre-built?
It was a pre-built
I'll
one there
help with some cookies.
in the down the bottom. We made like a kind of learning document,
Okay.
and there was a video that we basically referred to that kind of walk us through it as well. We did look at the tutorial on the module as well, but there were slight differences that can go into further detail if you would like later. But this one we were able to get the just following steps, able to get that demo game. And I think I know how to do the. Have to look into a bit more and take my experience. I think I know how to get this or the map or JS stuff in there. Just need more time to play with it.
How much time do you think?
I could get it done by next week. I just need to go. Here.
Okay, because I think right now it's critical to what I'd like to see happen by next week, if at all possible, is that we've got the map in a headset
Yeah.
to see what
I
it looks
think I
like.
should be able to do that.
And that way, and then probably, Greg, what we need for you and Alyssa to do is in the notes somewhere is let's document that process that makes it work, right?
Yeah, so we at the bottom of this report, there is, I think it's the very bottom. There's a link to the learning documents. I know you kind of asked us. We
Mhm.
included some things there. I can go further into that. We weren't sure exactly how specific you want it, but it was just like kind of issues we ran into, how we solved it, and other tips.
Yeah, so I if this is the right document to link, it's in our today's notes, I'll do that. But I think what we need to do is you guys are going on break after next week, right? And you're going to forget stuff.
Yeah.
So what I think what's really important is that you document the process so that when you come back in the fall, you know, we've got a document sitting in the top of our IVR4 doc, our notes, and you know, it's a quick refresher for you all to say, oh yeah, that's how we
What
get
we
this
could
stuff.
try and do if Lisa and I are able to meet up and go into the lab next week, is we could just record what we do and maybe have that available.
Yeah.
And keep in mind how the summer is going to be all headset work, right?
Mhm.
And so part of what we would like to capture from the spring is, you know, like you had to do a lot of experimentation, trial and error. Oh, we got to have these cables, we whatever. So like trying to capture as much of that so that the folks who are getting started over the summer, like if
Well,
you got the ball at the 30-yard line, they're starting there.
Well, I mean, we've done that through the tutorials. So everyone's going through the tutorials and everyone should have got their room and gone to this computer, put on the headset and interacted with their room with that headset. So that's the expectation. The GIS is a little different.
Alright.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah. And
So-
they'll be messing around. I think what's going to be helpful for you is what's going to happen in the summer, because what'll be happening in the summer is figuring out interfaces in terms of within photospheres, how do we move from place to place and get around, and
Okay.
looking at things like hands and raycasts. And when we look at an image like the word I want, like either a movie or a still image that has like text and graphics, and how we visualize that in the headset. I mean, that's a lot of stuff that we'll be focused on this summer.
So wait a minute, if everybody has already worked through, like, yes, I built something and then now I can get it into a headset, like, what were the challenges about the Android emulator, or the, just getting a Unity game to open an Oculus headset? Like, what was tricky about that? Is it just because it was happening down in FML versus up here?
So, yeah, so it was kind of two parts. One, since we did the tutorials a long time ago, I kind of forgot about this resource when we first started. But two, I don't believe I had done it with the headsets, like this tutorial with the headsets before. So I was learning that because I just did the like on my computer, kind of. I don't know how to explain it, but I didn't have access to the headset, so I didn't come up here and just
use the
yeah.
simulator.
Yeah.
Yeah, the emulators, yeah, a little clunky, but, and again, I know I said this before I left on
The
so that,
tutorial, and it should have happened by coming here.
yeah,
Testing in the computer.
Okay.
yeah, that was what should have happened.
And does the FML have the same equipment that we do?
Not the same, but same level.
Same level, so,
So what would happen if they decided to finish this last step? They're down there, they would be using their headset. If they came here, they would be using our headset.
yeah, okay. Yeah, because you could still down there access what we were calling plastic something different now, right? It's just changed names. But down there you can still access plastic, log in, and access the latest build.
So the GIS stuff is the only new, like because you're working through the ArcGIS SDK. That's the only difference between your development path versus the development path that people will be working on this summer. Is that correct?
Yeah, and it's just that we just don't know yet, because we've never done it with the SDK. We don't know what the interface looks or feels like.
Yeah, it was
That's-
a bit. We were trying to test with it. It was
Yeah.
a bit weird.
Yeah,
We were having issues mainly with, like, I guess the camera. I think it was the camera. So I'll go when I go back to test. I'll clear those settings. But
yeah, because we know if we make our, like in the tutorial, we know you make your room. We know what that looks and feels like
Yeah.
up here with our headsets, and we know through the photosphere stuff, we've done some preliminary work with the Oculus Go's in terms of the photospheres, and even with the Bing Map interface. I mean, that was from like 5 years ago, so we have some ideas of how things work in the headsets. It's just, the whole idea of now we're bringing in georeference data into this thing. So that's a whole nother can of worms, right? Because first of all, data is just confusing. And of course, we want to make the patterns readily apparent within that, right? And that's kind of how we configure the layers and stuff. But then the next step, so that's the first piece is, what does this look like, right? In Unity, right? Just even whether it be headset or desktop, I really want to focus on the headset. And then putting the headset on. Now, what does it look and feel when you're in there in an immersive environment, whether you're at ground level or you're, floating above the map, 40 feet up in the air, so it's, yeah.
Yeah, I just think, when I saw the issues with the camera and because it was just like, it wasn't really looking like it was loading properly or something. I'm assuming that was what the camera, but it was just a bad viewer position. But,
Well, we don't know.
yeah,
That's why you gotta
that's why
test it out.
I need more time to go back.
Yeah, play around, yeah.
Yeah.
May I suggest something?
But of course.
So since we are in the weeds with this process, I would highly recommend screencasting the work sessions, because then the issues that happen can be used as data for us here to watch, like, oh, this is a problem. Oh, we know this answer. So it's not only on your end and just like you have to solve everything. So it's either you, Alisa, or Scarlett, or everyone together, whatever. Sit down, try to do what you want to do or you need to do while you're recording the screen and narrating the steps. Because then you've done like the most important thing, it's already documentation, because then we are learning and seeing the process. And if this kind of issues happen, like we can take a look on our end very quickly, say, oh, this is why this is happening, or, you know, this kind of stuff.
Oh, Junior, do you so in addition to screencasting, do you have any recommendation about whether you think it will be smoother if they meet up in the FML development room or meet up here? Is it same, or are there going to be hidden snags, or like like upon watching the screencast, they can see how there's an issue down in the dev lab that would not be true up here?
I don't think like the project, as long as the project is in plastic, like in the cloud, they will have access to the same thing here or there.
Okay.
The only hurdle that I already anticipate is that whenever you are in developer mode in the headset, you need to wear the headset, because there is a question. Do you allow this headset to manage the files? And you always have to say yes, yes. So that's the hurdle that is always going to be there. We would sometimes there is like, oh, always allow for this computer, but sometimes this button is not there. So sometimes we think that the headset is not working, but it's because we are outside the headset and we haven't given this permission inside the headset yet. That's the only thing that I anticipate that is different, that we always have to check this box to make sure that it happens. Other things that might be the case, make sure that the meta software in the desktop computer here and there are up to date, for whatever reason. Like being up to date means that it's more compatible with what they are offering, and showing us what kind of issues that are happening, because just like Dr. Blasi said, like the tutorial, he even did himself the tutorial and tested here, so there was no issue. So I think the screencast is going to help us a lot understand better what's going on.
Okay. All right. All right, I want to get into the learning reference sheet, but is there anything else to report out on, either about the Android emulator or making new layers in ArcGIS Pro?
Oh, so I guess just starting with the Android emulator. So that's kind of like that was the main issue. I guess it's connected, not doing it properly up here in the tutorial. But we had figured that out. It wasn't like you needed something else. It was just the setting, or I guess like an output form of Unity, so it could properly connect with the Oculus. But that wasn't that was something we kind of learned from the tutorial. And so that's good there. I think we were just overthinking it a bit. It really wasn't that bad once we understood it. But and the archery, that's something I actually need to fix I thought I did it correctly, I should move this, it's not completed, but it didn't get saved correctly, so I have to redo that.
What didn't get saved?
The ArcGIS layers, I think it saved to the group, area, so I have to redo that.
Okay.
But, yeah, because I was trying to find it today and I couldn't, so.
And if you get stuck, is this ArcGIS online or?
This was Pro getting it on it, so like publishing it as the tile layer. So yeah, I have to redo that.
Okay. So if you get stuck there,
Yeah,
reach out to Jeremy, and he's always on Slack, or almost always, if you use that. It's sort of the quickest way to get a response for me.
Okay. Right.
Just for me to confirm, the ArcGIS learning curve is about how to save all the layers in the group.
so right now it's basically most of the stuff I've done is either change like the render distance or convert it to the tower layer. I really haven't created anything because it's been mostly available. It was just making sure it's the right format for us to use. But yeah, that's, I guess I thought I did it properly. I have to go check and see actually what I did wrong. I haven't had a chance to do that yet, but I have, yeah.
In this location you're saving it, Jeremy has access, right?
Yeah, it's,
Okay.
I think we all have access, or at least
Yeah.
Scarlett, Alyssa, and I do. That's that IVR for group space in the bridge area online. I was trying to get it there, but it looks like it kind of signal.
I have access.
I guess,
I'll double
because
check.
Jeremy created that, right?
Jeremy created, I mean, I don't, I'm not sure if you guys have
I haven't
access,
looked at
I
it
don't
yet.
know, sir. But I know Scarlett, Alyssa, and I all have access.
Yeah, I'll check it right.
So the thing is, you wanna make sure that you, I mean, you do, how to save everything that you create and mix and edit in that folder. But this is the ArcGIS side, right?
Yeah.
Have you started thinking about how you're gonna be transforming these important things in Unity into Unity objects, or is it too soon?
It's mostly tiles, right? We're converting to tiles.
I'm converting to tiles right now.
Yeah.
That's all I've done with ArcGIS is I've been trying to focus mostly on getting what we have into the headsets. Just because I know we're getting close to the end of the semester. So I haven't really experimented with that.
And I haven't had time, like, when Joseph Kursky visited us, he gave us a couple of people to look up, and I've got a list of papers and a couple of videos to watch. I was hoping to get to it so I could then see if it's worth sending it to the team. But I haven't made time to do it yet, so I don't know if it's gonna happen between now and next week, much less, I don't want you to have to do one more thing, because I know you have exams coming up and things like that, but it might be something that if I feel it's useful, once exams are over, I'll send you on your convenience over the summary. I'll take a look at it. Yeah.
I would like just to double check one thing. This map working, have you been able to train it only to the watershed location, or are you still loading everything that ArcGIS provides you?
Oh, that's something, yeah, I actually forgot to do that. I can, when I try to re-upload, I can do it. I was just trying to convert tile layers, just kind of as a side while I was trying to get the headset. That was my main priority, just getting it into that.
Yeah, that's good, because then you got this skill. So the next thing that I'm just asking is like, in order for you to save time, like having to wait for the computer to render whatever.
Yeah.
Work with very small like things that you really are testing with. Otherwise, it's gonna be overkill for everyone to wait, right? Like the computer as well.
Alyssa, do you have anything to add?
I think Gray pretty much covered it, but yeah, we're just having that issue with the camera, the map, but I think we should be able to figure it out by next week. I think we just have to reposition the camera so that it's not an error.
Yeah, that might be it. Yeah,
All right.
sounds like it might be camera position.
I think that's what it is, but we will see when we go back in.
All right. And then Alyssa, can you talk us through your learning reference sheets, what you got there and how it's organized?
Yeah, so
We
we
want
just,
to get as much as we can onto that before we break for the summer.
Yeah, this is kind of just like a starting document. Like we're planning to add to it as we go through more issues and stuff. But we just have a bunch of links about our macroinvertebrate notes and stuff. And then we go into later, there's like technology issues, like going through how we connected to the headsets and how like which cable to use, and then the video tutorial that we got to work on the headset.
Alyssa, is this document something that is a requirement from the CSC capstone process, or is it a file that you have decided to start to help your process on our end?
It was on your end. I believe last week you guys asked us to make this for the next teams like going forward. So we just started it this week.
Okay, so can I ask you to move that file into our folder in the shared drive? Because then everybody's gonna have access. Because currently it's outside our shared drive, so we always have to click the button, request access
Yeah.
to whoever.
Okay.
I just think it's safe.
All right?
Yeah, I'll move it into the document and into the driver now.
Yeah,
All
thank
right.
you.
So Alyssa, I just,
And then you can meet her, okay.
under today's notes, it says action needed, and then I put learning document. Once you move it into the drive, just go ahead and make a link there into the notes.
Okay, sounds good.
Yeah.
Ready.
The final report they're working on, they should be able to put everything into a folder, which should include their presentation, their slide, and documentation. And that folder should be put into the course sites area so that all the professors could have access to it. If there's another location, well, they can just add another link to it for you to have access to.
Yeah. Yeah. For us, it's best to have it in the IVR4 or Google Drive.
Mhm.
That's where we keep everything.
That's fine.
Projects. Yeah. Hi, Scarlett.
So the other two things that I know to ask about would be, you said you have some new stuff about
Yeah.
macroinvertebrates,
Mhm.
and also on the spread reports, is some stuff about hand interactions. So give you a minute to get settled in, but we'll want to dip into that to see what you got there. So Al, do you want to tell us?
Yeah.
what you
So,
last night?
since y'all started that in the meeting notes, I think the date was April 21st, there's this chart, and been still trying to wrap my head around what y'all are trying to do with this chart, even though, we have not storyboarded the activity, which we're going to do, we're not in May, but we're going to do it in later part of May. We've got a meeting set up. So a couple things that I discussed yesterday. I was up at the Lehigh Gap with Chad, and I'm trying to think of this guy's name, who does a lot of water quality monitoring and a lot of the different streams, part of different community groups. So first of all, the state of the river right now in the Lehigh Gap area is great. And if you saw the email that Chad sent me this morning that I replied to make sure everyone saw it, you look at that, and there's there's mayflies and stuff in there, so it's great. The sediment doesn't get stirred up. There might be some sediment in the bottom, but it doesn't. The water quality is fine. Now we talked about the Eshiquola, I'm pronouncing it wrong, creek. This is the creek that if you're hiking on the trail, on the LNE trail, and you look across the river, you see this creek come in. And the reason why that creek is what would be an interesting thing to put a virtual probe is because the East Zinc plant is about 3 miles down on that creek. And that creek has been monitored regularly. So in talking to this guy last night who does part of this monitoring, that creek also is in great shape. I mean, mayflies and stoneflies are in that creek when they sample. So Chad and I started thinking about this activity, and we talked about how, you can go to Rockport, which is in the Buck Mountain stream, and put a probe, pH probe in there, and it's like a 1 or a 2, just right before you hit the confluence of the Lehigh. And then as you walk a foot, 2, 3, 4 feet out into the Lehigh, the pH shoots up because you got all the mixing happening in the river. So and we had talked about, how it would be nice to have a comparison where you can to really get across that the river does a nice mixing job, right? So this idea at Rockport, you put the virtual probe, or the virtual macro survey there and come up with whatever. But then, I don't know if you got, you're showing where the creek is right there. Ashicola Creek. But what you could do is you could put a probe, the virtual macro survey right before the confluence of the Ashicola Creek and the Lehigh River, and it'll come up as being kind of healthy right now. But then what the instructions can do, or at least the feedback, and we haven't really talked about this yet in our planning meetings, we haven't had a planning meeting yet, but what the feedback can be is, this is a healthy creek right now, a healthy stream, but 100 years ago, it sure wasn't. And this is what you would have found 100 years ago. And I think the story that we can tell is that the Lehigh River and its tributaries have made a wonderful recovery since the Industrial Revolution. And that might be the narrative for this thing.
Since the advent of the Rust Belt. It's like
Yeah.
the ending.
Yeah, again, I'm just putting it out there for discussion, but what you've done here, in this chart, I couldn't make, I was looking at it with Chad, and because again, I've come in a little late into the process because of my sabbatical travel. We couldn't make heads or tails about what the intent was from a instructional point of view with what do we want to, what's the message? And I think what we need to do is just when we have our planning meeting in May, we need to kind of dig deep. Our group needs to dig deep into that, and how are we going to, put all ideas on the table and figure out what's best. But you don't want, we were looking at this, it's like, what? If you're trying to say, oh, the water is bad around the Lehigh Gap in the river, even the Ashicola Creek, that's a huge misconception. You don't want to do that. The river's it's healthy today.
So I can talk through what the idea is with the table if you want, or somebody else could do that, or we could move on if you figure that we're going to do this at some future point.
I think, and again, I'll defer here to Lauren, because she probably has some ideas too, but we haven't, as a group, sat down and storyboarded the activity yet. I think we need to do that.
And the date is May 25th from 2 p.m.
Okay.
After his proposal.
Not right after, there is time for lunch.
There's
And
time
another
for lunch.
meeting. Tell
We
me I have another meeting. Yeah, and I'll prep something prior to that meeting for that GIS storyboard planning meeting.
I think whatever we have brainstormed together, it's not disposable. The ideas
No.
are very good. What we need to try to do is to connect this contextual time frame that Dr. Bodzin is proposing, I guess, to make sense. Because if we stop to remember, IVR4 is a product of a collection of games that are interrelated, right? So that would make sense to have a game that tells things like what happened after that 200 years or whatever.
Yes and no. I'm gonna say no and yes, or no and maybe. So it's got so yeah, I mean, it should stand alone as a 20-minute experience. Someone goes to a public library with a headset, or Jacobsburg or Lehigh Gap, for public outreach. But yeah, I mean, what Junior has said is what might happen is, because we haven't been successful with NSF ISO proposals, might be after this summer, we talk about, well, if we got so much stuff developed and it's really developed into the headsets, which, summer we should have 3 things into the headsets, and possibly by December, Flood Adventures and or at least next school year, flood adventures and mystery of the Lehigh Gap. Wrapping a curriculum, scope and sequence and training teachers how to integrate that might be a NSF proposal.
That's
worth
the piece I
applying.
was waiting for, like, what's
Yeah,
the
since
connection?
we can't seem to get funding for at a high school, so I don't know.
Another quick thing, Al,
Yeah.
the storyboard meeting, you probably marked 2024, it should be 2023, May 20.
What's that?
That's why I couldn't find it on my
Have
calendar.
your invites for the wrong year.
Yeah. it was
Oh.
on here.
Sorry.
Should be May 25th.
Because in the beginning there was a miscommunication. Rob asked, is this 23 or 25th? And then Dr. was said 25th. So, right? That's in the name.
Water board, it's in an email. I sent it, oh, so I have that wrong. Why do I have a Zoom link for that? Oh, I just put the Zoom link. All right, so I need to like log into Zoom and find it and change it, right? I guess.
Might be able to change it from the calendar as well.
Because you got an invite, right? As long as that what
Yeah,
you're
I
saying?
had-
Yeah, so I gotta find it. I gotta go through Zoom to do this.
Yeah, we can do it later.
Yeah, it's just taking a second right now. So I don't know, Lauren, you have any thoughts on that?
Well, I've also been trying to make sense of what we're trying to get out of I'm getting the message that we want to simplify the amount of macroinvertebrates we include in the game.
Yep.
But I also, at our last meeting, was getting the message that we want to feature a different macroinvertebrate at each site. Is that correct?
Me personally, I would say whatever is the smallest, simplest number of species is best, like. Because I feel like if it was a different macroinvertebrate at each site, that's sort of like could contribute to the notion that, oh, wait, this macroinvertebrate is only found here. We would instead like want them to be seeing whatever they should be seeing, right? Let's say Rockport versus Bethlehem versus Jacobsburg. But there should be species repeating, in the places that's where the stream supports it.
Okay, so it's okay to have more than one species show up in the results for one sampling.
Yeah.
Okay,
Because
but you would like it to be tied to the scientific research that your students are already doing on which macroinvertebrates occur in those conditions.
well, we want it to be representative, right? Like remember Anastasio asked towards the beginning of the semester, like, how accurate are we trying to be, or how empirically based are we trying to be? And we're like, we want to be representative of reality, but we don't want to be like presenting actual, okay, here's, we're not tying ourselves to trying to get the exact right, incidence rate of caddisflies or whatever.
Okay.
We just need it to be representative, and we will have to play a little bit with time periods, right? Because my understanding of, say, agricultural pollution, right, the nutrient pollution you get from agricultural activity, or the thermal pollution that you get from residential areas, that is seasonal, right? That it depends on how recently there's been fertilizer put down, or it depends on, like in the summer, thermal pollution is going to be a lot worse than in the winter. So we're going to have to sort of play with the temporal spatial arrangement a little bit, but we do want it to get as close to reality as possible, right? So like if the Lehigh River is currently great, then let's go up the Aquashicola, or how we pronounce it, or if that,
Aquashicola.
Aquashikla.
say it again. Lauren?
Aqua, it starts with aqua, so
Aqua.
like water,
Shikla.
Aquashicola.
Aquashicola, thank you. So if that's currently healthy at the confluence, well, then we go upstream, or, I'm seeing this poster here from Moravian that's talking about ponds, like metal contaminated ponds, like maybe that's where the sampling takes place, because that would be representative of reality. But yeah, we are trying to make it representative and responsive to reality. And so, yes, the correct species that we've chosen to focus on should be at all the places where we feel that they should be. But keep it as simple as possible. Like if we can end up just looking at 6 species of macroinvertebrates, awesome. If it has to go to 9, fine. If it gets up to like 20, then I'd be like, yeah, that's probably cognitive overload for the user. But
Right. Well, I think the 9 that we identified last time are perfectly good to keep it simplified at that 9 that were in that far right column of that document that you had up earlier. I was just wondering about, it seemed like we needed to pick one to highlight for each site, and it sounds like that's not necessarily how we need to do it.
yeah, no, I was throwing the colors on there just to see where things repeated.
Okay.
And trying to find the most parsimonious possible selection of macroinvertebrates so that we would cover all of the pieces. And we've been stuck on the heavy metals because, at least as of the most recent version of that chart, we didn't know which species were most tolerant of heavy metals. But anyway, we can keep working on that.
I thought I sent last Friday night, or Saturday morning, I sent a publication that was a study done about.
I've not had time to read, so.
That's all right, but I forget what it was off the top of my head, but there was, I guess it's at home, that but there is one that's like that shows up in all these heavy metal studies stuff. But again, that's we have to storyboard this thing out and figure out what the user's going to do, and that's the intent going to be like.
Well, then I would stick with what your research is telling you.
Mm-hmm. All right. So
Oh, Scarlett, here.
what
Get some.
we need to, oh, sorry. So anything else about
It's kind of.
macroinvertebrates? I guess not. Okay. So I'd like to get into hand interactions, because that was also in the sprint report. And we've seen hand interactions in desktop VR with other groups, but we haven't done anything yet in developing for headset. So I'm curious to see what we have there.
So I know this was what Scarlett was doing, but something I just want to mention real quick is we were actually, when we did that demo game that I discussed earlier, we had some issues with the controllers connecting. So we didn't really look too much in depth into it. We got it in the headset. Now we were happy with that now. But we have to figure out what is going on with the disconnect with the controllers. I just wanted to bring it up.
I would like to understand what.
Yeah, what do you mean? That's the issue.
So we had we got the one of the demo games, like not the one in that tutorial, but a different tutorial we were doing. We got that one in, but the controllers like didn't connect. Now I'm not sure if it's just something with how the game was set up or that demo was set up. But
And there were batteries that were charged.
batteries were charged. Yeah.
Okay.
So that's just something we have to figure out. I just wanted to mention that.
Is it the VR Unity demo or is it the ArcGIS demo?
It was a separate one, I think, a different one we found a video on that we were trying with just to get a different perspective.
So this is a very interesting point that it's like this until Unity really figures out what's happening. Every tutorial is going to be slightly different, and one checkbox can destroy everything because we are at the cutting edge, which is difficult to work at. So I will also repeat again what we said. The safest bet is follow the structure provided by Unity.
Okay.
Because they work in tandem with Oculus SDK and the XR interaction toolkit, the XRI. So all of that stuff together works. And then we get from that skeleton, we duplicate that and we start building our stuff.
Okay.
Otherwise, you'll burn lots of hours because every tutorial is different.
Yeah, so
And the versions as well.
yeah, so I'll just reiterate what he says. And I don't know what process you found something somewhere, right? I don't know, where'd you find it? Was it on where was this?
Just a YouTube video.
Yeah, so exactly. One of the issues, Junior's probably right. You have to have everything configured in Unity. And I'm drawing a blank here with the package manager. And if it's not configured right, it's not going to operate correctly. So again, I would just say go back to the original tutorial that we set you up with. And because there's a module in there that kind of walks you through how to set up everything for the headset.
Yeah.
And
If
just
it's
make
not working, let us know, because we need
Yeah.
to knock at you and go, hey, what's going on? You know, because that's,
Yeah.
We asked their permission for using that. I remember Dr. Bozzi submitting the mail.
Yeah.
So they know that there are many people, including ourselves, reproducing that material to train people like yourselves. So if you end up seeing that you are having trouble, and we are not aware of it, it's because something happened in this in between, and we need to know so that we can like ring their bell, say, hey, help us, you know.
And again, the other thing I say, if you're bringing in something external into Unity, you don't know what it's been developed and which version, and you're messing around with it in Unity. If the versions aren't compatible for development, you're going to run into issues.
And just to finalize, one example that is ridiculous, like Dr. Bodzin's project is here, like every student came here and tested their VR rooms in the headset. And then I duplicated that project to run a test for IVR1. It doesn't run in the headset. Everything's the same thing. So it's very sensitive. Like Unity is very problematic with this kind of things. So our only recommendation that is the safest, that tutorial in our site can give you everything. Camera controller, like camera head and like all the two hands, both they say direct interaction, but also the laser interaction.
Ray interactions, ray interactions. So you copied it and then put it in the headset and it didn't work? Is that what you just said?
No, it works in the headset, but I cannot try in Unity. But your room, which was really worked out from the bottom up,
Right.
I can hit play in Unity and test in the headset.
Yeah.
Watershed Explorer's prototype, I can only test in the headset if I build it, but it has all the same structure as your room.
Huh.
It's weird.
That's weird. Yeah. It's a configuration thing going on.
And this is from the house, right? Everything that we have done in the past 5 years. Imagine the third or fourth ones.
So, so you were stymied by the technical problems in terms of getting the hand controllers going?
We'll retest it. I don't know what Charlie is.
I was, well, part of my problem is I couldn't get into the VR. And even before there was like, I'm having trouble with just like the XR interactive thing at all, like when it's like started up, even like on my desktop, like the camera that it shows is not the camera that's in the game. I don't know what's up. I've been trying to figure that out.
Set up an appointment with Junior. It's probably there's you have probably like 3 different cameras.
No, I looked into it. There's
There's
no camera.
only one camera. It's
So,
set up appointment with Junior. It's
I already
still,
know the issue. It's the problem with parenting. So
yeah,
if we don't follow a very strict approach with the positioning of the parent object, like 000, those numbers keep multiplying with the children. And when you hit play, the camera is like moved out, and we never understand. So the most safe approach, is like go checking every transform position X, Y, Z for each children, but make sure that the parent is also 000, because if you don't have a control of where the very grandchildren, great grandchildren camera is, when you hit play in runtime, the camera is repositioned because of the script. That's a very common issue.
So best thing is to
But
start
I can sit down with you if you
set up an appointment with Junior with his availability.
Dr. Bodzin also had that. His camera was outside the apartment.
Yeah, somehow I dealt with that. I remember.
And then also in the sprint report, it mentions building the screen in terms of like, what's that? Rocks and any other interaction. So is that also still on hold?
Yeah, the rock.
Okay. All right. So, anything else before we start looking ahead?
I have a question about what you just said about the rocks.
Mhm.
Building that is for the fall or supposed to happen now?
Well, it's on this very important, begin building in Unity, stream rocks, hand interactions.
Because we have the monocaine from IVR3 done. We don't have to redo anything. We are recycling that as a prototype scene. So the water is done, right? Rocks, that scene already has like lots of floatable objects and the underwater objects from the flood scene. Use that as a prototypical starting point and focus only on the interaction.
Yeah.
Have we decided like the VR design, are we just gonna have hands or are we going to have a body or feet? This should be decided before they start prototyping.
Okay, I thought we were going to experiment, see how it looked, see how it felt. And what we've been doing with Flood Adventures is just, you know, that one hand.
Yeah, the only thing that would be different, if the hands would be fine. But one thing we talked about was to have a simulation part when you're actually doing the macros, right? You have the hands and they drag the net into the stream. And then the next step might be you click something and then, you have feet kicking the rocks. And I think having some feet kicking rocks, which that doesn't have to be that could easily just be a simple animation to put in. Too. Yeah.
And I want to walk through a little bit, just the process of taking the Flood Adventures Monocaine and then making that available or making a copy available for IVR4. Because, it's easy to say, this is what we're going to do, but I feel like there's a whole lot of ways in which, something about the process gets derailed. So could we talk through how to, somebody can get their hands on the Monocaine, make a copy, and then get it into either a different branch on plastic, or at least get it onto their machine and start experimenting with it.
You kind of already answered, but I'm gonna just summarize.
But show, no, not, I want to show.
Is it
tell.
today now, then?
Yeah, I mean, if it's not lengthy, right? Because it sounds like it should be straightforward, but
I will say, I do think the plan for that's kind of clear, like, if we get everything else done, that's what we will do, but since we're so close, like, I feel like starting it isn't that the greatest idea, or at least, but if we have extra time, we will start.
sure. Yeah, just this is sort of a basic thing.
Yeah.
And let's just walk through it real quick to make sure that it's
Yeah,
there. It's
yeah, we'll
accessible.
need to know at least for next semester.
So
I'm gonna say my 2 cents about
Oh,
this.
yes.
Sorry, hopefully Alyssa can hear this. Once you get into it, it's gonna suck up your time
Yeah.
because there's so much physics
Mhm.
with this thing. And you're gonna want to play, you're gonna want to experiment and do. So I will say, and it's one of those things that I think when you start, you don't want to stop,
Yeah.
type thing. But there shouldn't, getting it ported into whatever development space you have going right now should not be hard to do.
Okay.
Yeah.
That's good.
I agree, it should not be, but let's go ahead and walk through. So Junior, you want to tell us where we're looking and which part of that we want to pay attention to?
So you create a new Unity project in your computer, like open Unity Hub, then make sure that you're logged in with your account that is part of our lab. And then here you create open remote project. This will open our repository in the cloud. So you'll be looking for Flood Adventure. I cannot click here because it's already in this machine for me. But for you, it would be like modified or whatever time ago. This time is not working. This is a glitch from me. But as long as you can click in one of these projects, you can click next. Let's see. And then it's going to ask you to select the place, which is highly important. For example, in this case, here in the lab, we have T unique projects, and this would be a new project
Yeah.
among the other projects.
So it's creating a local folder.
Yeah,
Yeah,
in a place that we have control, because
Yeah.
otherwise it gets crazy. I mean, every one of us in our own computers. So Unity always gives you this alert to remind you that if you are using one of the versions that below 2019.4, it doesn't have compatibility with plastic. So, and this is about to change because they are changing everything. But that's not your case because Flood Adventure is done in 2020.3.27F1, I guess, which is the same version we recommend you to be using. So if you have it, it's just one orange alert, and then you will have the specific version, you can open it. So once you click open it, Unity is going to start downloading the entire project from Plastic and installing in your local version. After you do that, you can, okay, I need to, right. So let me see if I get a project here in Plastic that I can break. So once you download, you open Plastic, which is now DevOps. For example, my project, I don't know what that is. Oh, it was 24 days of wait. This is something that I shouldn't mess up. Let me see another one. Draft. I can break draft and reconnect. It's fine. Okay, so if you go here in this home, you will see the projects that you have in the cloud. If they have this like sub item, it's because it's one local version in your computer. And it even shows you the path, right? In this case, I don't want to have this draft connect to the cloud anymore. So there are many ways of doing that. You can, if you know that you don't need that, you can delete. I think that deleting might delete the entire thing. So I'm gonna open the project here. Well, let's see how we can disconnect that or whatever. One space. Anyways. We want to not have this being connected anymore. I don't remember what it is. So this is the correct way of doing that. The junior version is once you have the project in your computer. Here. This is where this draft project was saved. You can totally copy the entire project apart from the temporary plastic files that are being controlled and paste it into a new project that you have. So you have access to everything. The only bad thing is that like the first time it always takes a while because your computer will process all the shaders, all the graphics, all the 3D objects, and the weather system as well. But if you copy an entire project, it works well. So that's the shenanigan way. The correct way would be after you download the project in your computer, you sever this connection with the cloud in Plastic. I'm not finding this right now. I don't want to take the time.
So because all of that is Spectrograms teachers. So does it make sense to all in terms of you development? The wrong machine, opening up a Unity. And then rather than build from scratch, you can have the existing materials to begin to adapt the bottom line.
Yeah, I guess my one question, I might have just missed it, is so what you did that basically grabs like all of the things and we have to sort through it then? Like it would add it all, or did I misunderstand that?
You mean the project that you're copying?
Yeah,
You need to paste everything. It's impossible to select because there are so many systems.
and then through like Unity editor, you would have to select it.
Yeah,
Okay, just making sure.
like don't This is just like a intermediate step. Instead of having to rebuild the system, the water flotation, whatever, have a copy of Flood Adventures and work the things that you need to work, which is like the VR interactivity and stuff, so that you can get ahead with that. Once you understand and you have your products ready, then we kind of use the time to isolate the monocaine or the water scene river or whatever, and leave everything behind. But unless we should do that first, Dr. Hammond, what do you think?
So my next question is, like, when we say monocaine, you know what you're talking about. I know what you're talking about. Have you guys seen it play? Is it something like, do you know what it is, what it looks like?
I've seen it from the demos, yeah. I haven't played it myself, but
That's the importance of full group meetings. See, everybody's together and they can see what the peers are doing. And also Dr. Bodzi knows what monocaine is.
So, yeah, just one more thing. How do I don't think I'm part of the lab for Unity. How do I join?
Have you logged in your Unity Hub with your Lehigh account?
My Lehigh, let me make sure this is my Lehigh account. Believe I did. Yeah, so this is my Lehigh account and the editor, yes.
I mean, Dr. Watson, this is what's happening here that we're checking. It's the results of Unity changing everything in the back with regard to plastic use. Like there was another company, now they are merging plastic as Unity. And then does it mean that Unity Advanced Teams is going to work again? And then we don't have Advanced Teams anymore? And then you send that email that we need to talk about that I didn't have time to read. Unity is really giving us trouble. So
Yeah,
that's
you and I have to make sure Monday, maybe we can set some time to look through that email together.
I'm just looking back through the tutorials you gave, making sure I didn't miss stuff. But I don't see anything specifically relating towards like Lehigh lab side using the licensing. But I have that and it's not automatically calculating, so I don't know if there's an extra step we need to do.
I'm hearing you great. So Dr. Bozzi, in our last conversation about the system, we tested whether removing Unity Advanced Teams would impact our student developers. So much as that we didn't even register IBR4 here yet. Because it was everything on plastic side. But on plastic,
I'm getting charged anytime anybody goes into plastic.
so plastic doesn't exist anymore. Like plastic, it has become something else and it's been reintroduced into Unity.
Yeah, you and I have to go through that email and look at it. But my last bill went from, compared to the month from $42 to $56, and I'm because of more students up using plastic. I mean, I think that's the bottom line. How the fee structure is working right now. I mean, every student, it's $7 for every student that uses plastic per month. And I have some free ones. I get a couple, it's here 3 or maybe 6 free. But with version control, and that was the link price, you now have to look at that because they're going to start charging by the build also. So you and I need to.
And they totally destroyed the original website that we were using. They are bringing us to this one. So I don't know where we exit the lab anymore. We have to catch up on their changes.
Yeah, you and me have to go through that. I've got 2 emails that note that I have to discuss with you. So.
All right.
Yep.
Really should.
Yep. That's why I told you we got to meet.
So if possible, I would say get the files before they disappear for the summer and then play around with it if you have time and interest, because it is fun.
And it's definitely easier to adapt than to build fresh. But if you do decide to build fresh, at least it helps give you some assets to use the other one. Because after all, like, we're gonna need multiple scenes, right? Like the Pledge Adventure is just as that one, but we're gonna have to have something that says, okay, here's where we are in the wetlands around Rockport. Here's Jacobsburg. Here's Sand Islands. These are all gonna have different look and feel.
And that's once we figure out the interface, right?
Yeah.
You know what it looks and feels like, yeah.
Okay. All right, so let's look ahead. What do we want to get done between now and next week? And last week, did y'all discuss what to present to the full group meeting that happens in 30 minutes?
So Alyssa and Gray, I need the cable back next week.
Yes.
That's important.
Yeah, I always have the thing, so
Yeah.
if I forget, just remind me. I'll
Yeah.
have it on.
I'll try to send a reminder, but yeah, we'll need that back here in the lab after the next meeting.
Yeah, as in regards to next week, unless you guys have something else planned, my main goal is just making sure we can get the map into the headsets.
Yeah,
I'd be happy even with that, because that's something we can pick up easily, and
Yeah.
it's not like we're starting anything new.
yeah, I think that would be the goal, yeah.
Okay, what else do we got? So get map into headsets.
I'll try to do the layers, make sure they save properly, and maybe add that in the headset as well, so just everything. I'll try to restrict them, as Junior said, to just limited mid-high area. Maybe expanding a little,
Like, it's very recommended that you always work very small until we get to the actual development process.
Yeah.
We are still in the pre-development stage, so the less time you can burn with like waiting for the computer, the better for you.
So get ArcGIS Pro layers into the ArcGIS Online IVR4 group, and then, into a headset if you can. But as Junior's pointing out, if that's a lengthy process, I mean, proof of concept with what you already have is fine. Okay, what else for next week?
Screencast of any.
Yeah,
that you try to do,
documentation.
so we can really try to help more,
Mhm.
right? You understand better what's going on by watching that. And you can even like say bad words, doesn't matter. It's a learning process. And when you are frustrated, you say, okay, this is a pain point we need to observe carefully so we can help them. It's fair game, no problem now.
Okay. Also I'd recommend update documentation. Because, summertime hits and then, the curve of forgetting takes place. Okay, preserve. Junior likes the term knowledge base. Am I using it correctly, Junior? Preserve the knowledge base from where we are at the end of this semester. So that's.
Yeah, that's actually the term, right? It's the knowledge base of the entire project.
All right. And I would also recommend make a run at getting your hands on the Monocacy. Because, if you already know that you've already got it on your computer, great, then it's there and it's waiting for you for the summer. Should you have time and inclinations to get into it.
You can also have this action by, if you want me to be together, just click time there for me to be with you. I've done that lots of other times.
Okay. All right. So how about for the 3 o'clock meeting? What do we want to show and tell? Or was that already part of the discussion last week?
I don't remember if we said anything last week.
Like I see there's a header to report at full group meeting, but it's not populated. So unless anybody remembers anything, we need to figure it out now.
Where are you reading that? In the spring report?
And meeting notes.
From last week, right?
Yep. I'm
What is
trying
the
to,
item again? Because I didn't. It's from last week.
Yeah.
But what is the issue?
I just, what do we want to report and show
Oh, okay.
from this group when everybody is together at 3 o'clock? So I'm flipping down to the March 31st meeting. Okay, so we can report that y'all met with Joseph Kursky, correct? All right. All right, and so do you have another meeting there?
I have a class here.
Okay. All right. Okay, well, thank you for coming up.
Bye, Carl. Bye, Scarlett.
All right, so meeting with Joseph Kursky. Okay, but
It's just going through what we brainstormed last time. I don't know. Do you have that posted, by the way, that we used at the expo? I know we left it here. I don't know if you stored it in there.
There.
Yeah, oh, I keep sleeping. Yeah, so we could show that, if we wanted
Do you have the digital version?
the digital. Oh, yeah, I did.
Because it's much easier. You can share the
Yeah.
screen.
Yeah, about that. But yeah, we can show that. We don't have anything to show from what we've done in the dev lab for getting into VR, but we can talk about it. And then I was gonna say Scarlett could talk about the macroinverted rate stuff, but she had to go, so I can talk about it, although I won't be as knowledgeable as she is.
okay, or we can help fill it.
Yeah.
Because by being the only person who actually is here. we'll be
Well,
happy
this
to
is
check
still
it.
on, right?
Melissa should be on Zoom. She can
This is on Zoom.
talk about anything.
Yeah, I can talk about whatever we need.
Okay. Okay.
And we can show the documentation as well that we've done so far. That would document if you would like as well, and say we'll expand it. And finish it.
Wait, say that again.
At the bottom of the sprint report, with the learning document, you can show off that, say, how we're compiling issues we ran into, solutions, all that stuff.
Great. Okay. Sounds good. Okay. All right. Does anybody think of anything else to bring to the full group? At the right spot. All right. So we are now going to be on break until 3 o'clock. All right.
I'm on break, so I'm gonna stop it.
Yep.
Yeah.
Okay.